Hi there! Today I will show you on how to design a car rear lights using an Arduino, LEDs, and tact switches. The materials that I used: toy car model, Arduino and USB cable, connecting wires, shrinkable tubes and lighter, 5 pieces of 10 kilo ohms resistors, 2 pieces of 330 ohms resistors, 2 pieces of 100 ohms resistors, 2 pieces of 3 mm yellow LED, 2 pieces of 3 mm red LED, 3 pieces of 5 mm red LED, 5 pieces of tact switches, breadboard, soldering iron and lead, universal PCB, glue gun and glue sticks, screwdriver, scissor, and cutter, recyclable plastic Tupperware, 9 volts battery, and a laptop. This project has 4 phases. First is creating a schematic diagram. Second is the breadboarding. Next is creating a code using Arduino IDE software. And lastly, designing and constructing the car rear lights. Here is my schematic diagram. I always do breadboarding to test my circuit before permanently soldering it. First, I put my 5 tact switches. Next, I use connecting wires to connect the pin of switches to the positive power rail. I also connect the another pin of switches to the 10 kilo ohms resistor connected to the ground. Then, I put my LEDs. I connect the resistors to the positive pin of my LEDs. It is used to limit the current through LEDs and to prevent it to burn. 330 ohms for each yellow LEDs and 100 ohms for parallel connections of red LEDs. I connect the negative pin of LEDs to the ground. Using an Arduino, I connect the negative power rail to ground and the positive power rail to 5 volts. This is the connection of my switch pins to my Arduino board. My switch pin 1 is connected to the digital input pin 2. My switch pin 2 is connected to the digital input pin 3. My switch pin 3 is connected to the digital input pin 4. My switch pin 4 is connected to the digital input pin 5. And lastly, my switch pin 5 is connected to the digital input pin 6. This is the connection of my LED pins on my Arduino board. My yellow LED pin 1 is connected to the digital output pin 8. My yellow LED pin 2 is connected to the digital output pin 9. My red LED pin 3 is connected to the digital output pin 10. And lastly, my red LED pin 4 is connected to the digital output pin 11. So this is my code. First, I define switch pin being used. Here are my switch pins that I used. Next, I enumerate LED being used. Here. I also enumerate delay values in millisecond. After that, I set LED state to low. Here are my additional variables. I will use this bool, blink 1, blinks 1, switch state 1 for my left signal light. Bool, blink 2, blinks 2, switch state 2 for my right signal light. And bool, blink 3, blinks 3, switch state 4 for my hazard light. This is my code inside my void setup. The pin mode open and close parentheses function is used to configure a specific pin to behave either as an input or an output. Here my output includes yellow LED pin 1, yellow LED pin 2, red LED pin 3, and red LED pin 4. My input includes switch pin 1, switch pin 2, switch pin 3, switch pin 4, and switch pin 5. I will also use this for the blinking of my yellow LEDs. Inside my void loop, this is my code. For my switch 1 left signal light, this is my code. For my switch 2 right signal light, this is my code. For my switch 3 running lights, this is my code. For my switch 4 hazard signal lights, this is my code. And lastly, for my brake signal lights, this is my code. Now that I am done making my code, I will compile it. Now that it is done compiling, it has no errors. I will upload this and I will try if my 5 switches and my codes really work. For my switch 1 left signal light, for my switch 2 right signal light, for my switch 3 running lights, for my switch 4 hazard lights, and lastly for my switch 5 my brake lights. For my toy car model, I used the old remote control car of my little brother. I open it and start designing for my car rear lights. I soldered all the circuit components. I also used shrinkable tubes. Heat shrink tubing is the method of covering or encasing the wires in an insulating tube for protecting the wires from external disturbances. After that, I put my LEDs at the back of the car. I flatten the car seat so that I can place my Arduino board and wire connections. In the front side of my car, I made a holes for my tact switches. I decided to put my switches in the front so it makes more realistic. Using a recyclable plastic Tupperware, I made an improvised reflector for my brake lights. I used my universal PCB and soldered my resistors and connecting wires. I also put digits from 1 to 5 so that I can easily distinguish the connections of my switches connected to my different LEDs. Then, I connect all the wires to my Arduino board. After that, I test the functionality of my rear lights. Now that it is okay, it is the time to reassemble it again neatly. Lastly, I use 9 volts battery to power my remote control car and Arduino board.